Welcome to Rare Connection. I'm your host, Joanna, and today I'm joined by Heather, the Maine ambassador for the National Organization for Rare Disorders. Heather is living with narcolepsy and is currently Miss Maine for America Strong 2026, where she'll represent Maine at the national competition in August. Uh, through her advocacy. She's proving that it's possible to go from surviving to thriving. While many people here, many people have heard of narcolepsy, few realize just how uncommon it is. It affects approximately 1 in 2,000 people, placing it in the U.S. definition of a rare disease. Because symptoms can develop gradually and often do not look like stereotypes portrayed in movies and television, many people wait years for an accurate diagnosis. Studies have found that more than half of patients are initially misdiagnosed, and many experience diagnostic delays of 2 years or more. With some waiting for a decade or longer for answers. Narcolepsy is commonly mistaken for conditions such as depression or anxiety, obstructive sleep apnea, insomnia, ADHD, chronic fatigue syndrome, idiopathic hypersomnia, simply not getting enough sleep or being lazy or unmotivated. Today, today's conversation is about much more than sleep. It's about overcoming misconceptions, advocating for yourself, educating others, and showing that a diagnosis doesn't have to determine your future. Please join me in welcoming Heather to Rare Connection. Uh, so Heather, can you tell us about your journey um, to being diagnosed with narcolepsy?
Absolutely. Hello, and thank you so much for having me on. My name is Heather DiBenedetto, and I was not diagnosed until age 35. So you can say diagnostic time was a little bit long. I've been displaying symptoms since I was a teenager, and the short version, I was really in my 20s. I was diagnosed with a few autoimmune issues. I knew that there was something else going on, but I wasn't getting the answers. When I was about 35, I'd had a fever, the chills. I felt like I had the flu and it wasn't going away, kind of similar to when I had mono when I was younger. So, and I had 3 kids. When my ex-husband got home, I said, take the kids. I'm going to go to the ER. I just need to get myself checked out. So I went and everything came back okay, except for I was severely anemic and it was showing that I had some type of viral infection. So through follow-ups, I went to a hematologist where I had IV iron. And when we completed that, she was like, well, how do you feel? You must be feeling so much better now. And I was like, I'm exhausted. I don't feel any better. I'm just not eating ice anymore. So she then referred me to who I call my saving grace, Dr. Visconti. And I went in to meet him. And after so many years of going to doctors, pleading my case, pretty much with a binder full of information, I walked in. I had 2 young kids on my lap, one in a seat, my binder. He didn't even have to look at it. He looked at me and he said, have you ever been tested for narcolepsy? And I was like, I have not. And honestly, my mind went to where everybody else's is, what we see in the movies and, kind of um, not making fun of it, but maybe possibly making light of it. And I was like, out of everything I've Googled my whole entire life, I've never looked that up. So I did go to a sleep specialist and I walked in and he said, I think you probably have sleep apnea. I definitely don't think you have narcolepsy. No way you have both. He's like, you're doing, like you're kind of you do so much because I had my kids with me, again because obviously as a mother we kind of got to bring our kids everywhere. So I went. I had my MSLT. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I had the MSLT. I did the overnight sleep study, and in the follow up. I went back and he said that he had looked at all of between my blood work, my sleep study from the actual nighttime, which showed that I actually got zero REM sleep during the night. And then during one of my naps, because they make me take 5 naps with an MSLT, that I had gone into REM extremely early. So between the blood work, the symptoms, and the MSLT, I was able to finally get the diagnosis of narcolepsy. So that was kind of it was a great moment, and it didn't change who I was. It just kind of explained what I had been feeling and who I had been, and kind of validated that for me.
Mhm. So can you explain the MSLT test?
Um,
Good.
that's basically where you go. It's not fun. Uh, you go in and they hook a lot of stuff up. I think a lot of people associate narcolepsy with sleep, um, which is
Mhm.
true. However, it's actually a neurological disorder. So you go in, you have things placed all over your head, on your body, and then you go to sleep for the night at a clinic, and then they wake you up early in the morning. And then throughout the course of the day, you have scheduled naps. So you're awake for a certain time, and then you have to go to sleep. Um, and then you wake up. So you do that 5 times. And then, so right now, and then basically from there, they determine you either need to go into REM. They so there's mixed views on the time periods of like it used to be 5 and then it's 8. And now the doctor kind of looks at the whole picture. And it either needs to be within 2 naps or 1 nap and positive blood work, which is what I came back with. So I want to say narcolepsy. They said MSLT was actually started because they were just looking at sleepiness with people. I don't think that they were necessarily looking at it from a neurological standpoint. Um, and so it was created in, I believe, like 1960, 1970. And since then, they haven't come out with a different test. Hopefully, someday we'll see a test that can be more definitive for people. But as of now, you kind of rely on doctor patient symptoms, talking, the MSLT, blood work, because there is a genetic component to it. So that's really kind of what the MSLT and the office visits look like. And then you go from there after you get your diagnosis.
So did they do anything to help you sleep since you have to take five
Um,
naps?
no, it just you're going in off of your own rhythm, and so the naps are scheduled for about 20 minutes, I believe. And then you're woken up. You have to stay awake for a certain amount of time. And then it's okay, lights out, go and take a nap, which can be difficult too, because, honestly, narcolepsy, there's 2 different types. There's also, levels of severity. Some people have milder narcolepsy, some people have, more severe. So, I mean, my opinion personally on it is that we definitely have a long ways to go as far as diagnostic tools for narcolepsy. I'm sure there's a lot of people that haven't been diagnosed that have it. And a lot of that, I think, just comes down to, healthcare and where we are in the system today. So
Mm. So, what symptoms did you experience before receiving the diagnosis?
that's a great question. So, um, I think for me, some people can actually pinpoint when they felt a change in their life, and when it kind of like was onset. But for me, it was the only thing that I ever knew. And collectively, so I lived in New York City for 23 years, and I saw a lot of doctors, and they were basically able to surmise that they believe because I grew up in rural Maine that I had Lyme disease as a child and that it was left untreated for many years. And that is something that can activate like the genetic component of it. So I was experiencing excessive daytime sleepiness, waking up feeling completely exhausted, like I didn't even get any sleep at all. The insomnia part of it, I would be extremely exhausted all day, but 9 o'clock, my brain was like, hey, what's going on? Like, let's do some research. Let's bang out some stuff and get these things done. So that's also a common misconception. I think people don't realize that there's insomnia with it because it's actually a sleep wake cycle disorder slash interruption. So I also had sleep paralysis, which is when you wake up, but your body isn't able to move yet. And that was always pretty scary for me. I never really, before I was diagnosed, I didn't know what was going on. And you kind of feel like your body is shaking. And I remember in my mind, I was like, okay, like move your body, like try to get yourself out of this. And then eventually you fall back asleep and then you can wake up after. Some other things that I displayed would be extremely vivid dreams. I they Some of the dreams are extremely euphoric feeling. The feelings in there are very, very real, very strong, um, which is a good and a bad thing. Also, some of them can be very close to your regular life that you're dreaming about. So sometimes it can make it hard to make the distinction between what you dreamt about and what actually is happening day to day. So I do know that I experience that, and some other people do as well. And a lot of brain fog, and I do oftentimes, and I try to be more conscious of it, but can mumble my words and my speech. That's also one of the symptoms that people may not know.
Hmm.
So, it's the main takeaway is that it affects nights and days, and not a lot of people realize that. It's
Mhm. So, some people have. I saw a few videos on this before, but were there are there times where it looks like you're still awake and you're doing things, or do you actually?
Yeah, so that yeah, like the automatic behaviors and things like that. It's a like they're called like mini bursts of sleep. And I think that you don't even realize that you're doing it. And it's almost like, if somebody's driving a car and they feel like they zoned out and they're like, oh, I went from point A to point B. I don't even remember this, kind of like that. And so you can definitely experience that as well. And I'm fortunate, I don't have a severe case, but I do have enough, that affects daily life. So I would say um, each day, um, you kind of take it as it is, depending on how you slept the night before. So
Mhm.
that's kind of a little bit of a determination for me.
And the videos, a lot of these said that they had pretty vivid dreams also.
Oh yeah, I mean, I I would have dreams where I would be on top of a building and jump off. And it's almost like, if you go over a hill really fast in a car or a roller coaster and you feel like you kind of lose your stomach. I could feel that in my sleep as I would be jumping off the building. And then the air would catch me and I'd be soaring above everybody else and it would feel extremely euphoric. And those are the good dreams, I'd like to say. Then
Mhm.
there are the dreams that aren't as happy. And, you know, actually my daughters, one of them slept in my bed a couple of weeks ago and she said, Mom, do you know that you actually started, you were calling for help for somebody and you started crying and I was like, I vaguely remember this. I vaguely remember this. I did like and I was like, okay, I'm like that did happen. Yeah, because they're very deep and they're very emotional and been very close to you. You can have dreams about, your family or your children, for example, are just bad things happening and they seem extremely realistic. And sometimes, if you experience those because you have fragmented sleep as well, I actually wake up with more anxiety and feeling more exhausted than I did before I even went to sleep.
You mentioned that were in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Uh, did do your dreams have to do with that?
That's a great question. So I believe that for a while I was having some of those dreams and well, I think one of the, the I don't know. So yes, I definitely had like a little bit of PTSD that I was definitely diagnosed with. And I in my sleep, because a lot of times in the later stage of sleep I'm conscious, I can hear everything going around me. If a door would open or close, I was brought back to when I lived in New York. And if I needed to nap and my kids were around, I'd take like a 45-minute nap on my couch or something. But if I heard the door open, I would jump up and kind of panic. Okay, like I don't want to get in trouble, and so now I don't live there. I live in Maine. I've lived here for the past 4 years, but if I do take a nap, and even sometimes at night, if my kids come in and open and close my door, I'll jump up because I think that I'm kind of back in New York and that I'm doing something wrong.
Hmm. Do you
So,
have fears that he'll find you, or
I mean, so we've kind of worked through, it's been 4 years, so we've worked through a lot. And I think that we're able to co parent the best that we can. And I think that he's done a lot of work on himself too. So, you know, um, and living in New York and Maine, we live very separate lives. And he has his life and I have mine. And really, the only times that kind of overlap or when we're discussing visitation or something specific with the kids.
mhm. So, let's see, how has narcolepsy affected your daily life, work, and or education?
Um, Okay, so narcolepsy is a part of me. It's always going to be. And I think that when I look at it through that lens, I'm able to be a little bit more gentle with myself. And I love to use the spoon theory. I don't know if you're familiar with the spoon
Yeah.
theory. Okay, so if other people aren't, I just love, when trying to explain narcolepsy to people. I say, okay, say we go, we all sleep from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and we sleep the same amount of time and you wake up and you have 10 spoons. Well, narcolepsy, you get completely fragmented sleep. You don't follow the stages of sleep correctly. And, you can also have insomnia, you have the vivid dreams, sleep paralysis. There's a lot of variables that happen when you sleep. So there are some days when I could wake up with 3 spoons. There are some days when I could wake up with 6. But consistently each day, I am waking up with less spoons than the general or average person is waking up with. So I have to be very conscious about what I'm going to do with those spoons, who's going to get them, and where that energy is placed. Because, it's really it's more energy management than time management during a day. And it also means adapting, because if I'm waking up with 3 spoons and I have a full plate that day, that may mean looking at my schedule and saying, okay, um, this is something that I need to there might, if there's something that I can change in that day, then obviously prioritizing my self care is important. So I will rearrange it. And maybe that means I need, an hour nap or something like that. But, I think I haven't gone back to teaching. It doesn't align with my health situation, only because I do have like some other autoimmune things and I tend to get sick very easily. Um, and so that's kind of, it's left me, because I do raise my daughters full time here in Maine. So I recently got my real estate license and I've been looking into going back to school for nursing, which is something where I can make my own hours and be more flexible in different settings. And you can also do telehealth. So, um, you know, I if you had asked me 20 years ago if that was something that I'd be passionate about or thinking about doing, I probably would have said absolutely not. Because I was a germaphobe. I was always scared of getting sick because I do get sick a lot. However, it is something now that fits my life more. And since my diagnosis, I have chosen to walk the path and make it my mission to help people feel seen that aren't feeling seen. And I truly believe that that's my work here. And I try as strongly as I can to convey that each day. And going back to school for nursing is something that's aligned with that.
Mhm.
So
So, yeah, nursing might be a tough territory because it's like they work long hours.
they do. So, and that's like the beauty of nursing is that there are so many opportunities out there. You can either be in a hospital setting and do 3 12-hour days. You could be working at an aesthetic place. You could be working at an IV place. You can do telehealth online with people. So there's definitely a lot of different avenues that you can do. And I spent a lot of time doing a lot of research into it. So I do feel like it's something, I'm going to be 47 this year. And I was like, do I really want to go back to school? And I was like, there's no timeline on anything. We can start, that's the beauty of life. Like we can start something new whenever we want and change things if we're not happy. So we just have to take that step and the leap of faith. And if it continues to align with us, we continue it. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. So.
Mhm. So, what inspired you to become a NORD ambassador?
Oh, I absolutely love Nord. So I discovered Nord years ago, obviously, when I was researching narcolepsy. I remember when I got the numbers thinking, and especially to this day, I have family members that don't understand what narcolepsy is. A lot of people mistake it and just think that I have sleep apnea. So I think for me, doing so much research for myself, because I knew because I'm a very determined person. So I knew that, okay, like I got this, I mean, I was gaslit by the medical community forever. You're lazy, you're tired, you're depressed, you have anxiety, you're this, you're that. And those are all secondary things that people with rare disorders typically can struggle from because number one, they feel isolated and they don't feel seen. For me, when I moved back to Maine, and it took me 2 years to get into a sleep specialist here, 2 years. So I said, this is not okay. Not people can't live like this. This is not, and the whole United States is in a health crisis. But in New York, I did not experience the delays that I did here in treatment. So, I think I was up one night when I had insomnia. I was on there and I was researching. I found it a great tool um, because there's also limited things on narcolepsy. There's Narcolepsy Network, there's a few or different organizations and stuff like that. And I'm in Facebook groups where I connect with people and we talk. But, looking for information and looking for resources. So I was on there trying to look for resources in Maine. Like, can I find anything? And then, I saw, it's talked about volunteers, ambassadors, and I was like, is this something, I feel like I would be interested in, or am I even qualified for? And I think I met with um, I think three or four people before I actually was named Maine's ambassador. And I loved every single second of it because I'm passionate about it. It's 2 out of 3 of my daughters carry the narcolepsy gene. So for me, this is my life. This is my mission. This is not only just helping, the narcolepsy community and the rare community, but helping people that don't feel seen, feel validated, feel worthy, and to be living their best lives. So, I did a lot of research, and then I spoke to my doctor about it, about the wait times, and I just felt like I wanted to try to be able to bridge the gap between, a diagnosis time, getting into doctors, and that's where NORD can really help people. They have resources, they have so many things. And I wanted to kind of bridge that gap and become a solution for people here in Maine. So that's really kind of where my passion for NORD came in. And then as I've been learning more and more about the people that are other ambassadors and what NORD really does for everybody, it's been really fulfilling and touching. Like, for instance, I met a woman, Terry Storella. She lives in Florida, and her son Anthony has the cask gene mutation. So they are a part of obviously the rare community. And they had somehow reached out to somebody in Maine, but we ended up getting in contact with one another, and I helped them contact people in NORD. I also gave them NORD's ambassadors in Florida. So I was kind of able to provide them with those things. And then now I have a great relationship with them where actually uh, July 15th was National, I'm going to stumble on my words, National Cask Gene Mutation Awareness Day. So we were able to kind of get the word out there for people to learn more about that. And I love that for people. It's amazing what families will do, when there's love involved and family and your heart and soul, what people put out and what people will do. So just being able to be the sounding board, the microphone, and the connection, I think is so meaningful. And as I spend more time in NORD and learning from people that have been ambassadors for longer times, I realize that Maine is such a huge state. So hopefully we will eventually have another ambassador because gosh, I think from here to the top of Maine. So I'm in southern Maine. I want to say it's about 10 hours. So you want to talk about people up there that really don't have access to care. So, that to me, is it's my passion. It's my love. I think people can see it when I talk about it, when I meet people that have something that's rare or invisible. I get very excited. I love connecting people and making connections, and I'm a learner. I'm a lifelong learner. I love learning new things, and so it's been a wonderful experience. Everybody at Nord is just so caring and just really want to make a difference, and it's so uplifting to be around people like that.
Mhm. So how did you get involved? How did you become involved in the Miss Maine for America competition?
Well, I think while I was going through my divorce, it was super tough emotionally, and draining. Everything was draining about it. And I think when I finally got divorced, I really was starting to rebuild my confidence and kind of look at who I was. And I adopted something that I called the yes year, where I was going to be stepping outside of my comfort zone. I had put in a lot of work since about 2020, on myself, on who I am as a person, rebuilding the confidence, just really kind of claiming myself back. And not only with that, but also with health, because that's an important part of having a rare disorder or something like that is our health and prioritizing health, self care. And I have like my pillars for it that I talk about, but creating the strong foundation of sleep and maximizing and making my space the best that I can. And then you have nutrition and you have exercise, and then you build on top of those. So, really, I was starting my healing journey, and my first pageant was with USOA, and the director is Christy Hines. And I also, to forever thank her for seeing something in me and seeing a spark, because she is an amazing woman in the state of Maine that I didn't know anything about pageantry. And now that I do, I am so respectful of all the organizations, because there's so many women in there that have platforms, that are volunteering, that are creating, that are doing to make their community a better place, to make their state a better place, to make, a difference nationally. And they're using their crown to do that, because the crown actually does help open doors. So, and then they're able to access that and then amplify whatever message it is that they're trying to convey. So that really drew me in, because my mission and my life, everything that I'm doing now, crown or no crown, is always going to happen. But for me, being crowned, I was crowned the day before Easter. So Miss Maine for America. So it was the day before Easter. I wasn't expecting it, and it was a wonderful surprise. And I have to say, it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm getting to reach so many more people through having a title. And if I've helped one person, five people, 10 people, it's been worth it to me, because that's really what it's all about. A crown is a beautiful thing, and I joke around with my kids about it. I'm like, it's about what's behind the crown and what you can offer your community and what you can give yourself to. So, I kind of came in looking for confidence, but I really found my calling.
Mhm. Has competing in pageants changed how people view disability or chronic illness?
So for me, I actually really think it does. And I was very hesitant at first about sharing there was so long that even though I worked on myself and through my diagnosis, I actually didn't really tell people that I had narcolepsy because honestly, people's minds go straight to movies that make fun of it. They don't really know a lot about it. Um, and I think that the people that I was surrounded by at the times weren't really fully understanding or embracing it, I want to say. So, and it actually gave me the strength to just come out and be like, this is me. It doesn't, it doesn't change anything that I've done or anything that I'm going to be doing. It's a part of me and it's a piece of me, and it doesn't define who I am. I'm still going to do things. I mean, every 1 in 10 Americans, live with an invisible or rare disorder. I'm sure that you know that. And,
Mhm.
everybody's carrying something. And if I can be transparent with people and let them know, hey, like we may not suffer from the same thing or have the same diagnosis, but I see you. I can help you. I can get you resources, even if it's, uh, you know, I mentioned before, a lot of people can struggle with mental health issues surrounding an invisible illness. You can call or text the 988 number. There's therapists, there's support groups. There's so many ways to be able to feel less alone. We don't want anybody feeling alone or isolated, and that can happen with rare disorders. So I was very happy to take back my moment where what was once my biggest insecurity and to not only own it and, you know, but I like went with it and rocked it. And I love that I'm able to do that because it was once what I thought was my biggest fault, and it's not. So I think that pretty much,
So your message is from
so
surviving to thriving. What does that mean to you?
surviving to thriving. I love that saying. So I talk about how my mission is really helping people to be seen when they're living in a world where they have something that is unseen. So that's my mission. And through that, I have all different ways to help people kind of. It's easy to sit back and to be in survival mode, right? I mean, I don't know how many times I've been in survival mode, whether it was in my marriage or kind of going through my divorce. Possibly, when I was diagnosed, it wasn't a diagnosis that was even on my radar. So I think that I was completely thrown by it. Um, and, there's times that you have to sit and think with yourself, like, okay, like where do I go from here? And your diagnosis doesn't have to define you. It's completely possible for two both to coexist with one another. You can have a diagnosis and you can also thrive. Like we only have one life. We have one beautiful life. And whatever is thrown our way, we need to work with it and deal with it so that we're able to enjoy this beautiful life that we're given. And that's my message, is that, you know, be kind to yourself. If you are having those days when you're not feeling well, or you're sick, I mean, it depends on, what people have, but self-care is a priority. But being able to find the balance, where okay, like I have this. What can I do to make me feel optimal with this? And for me, like my journey doesn't look like everybody else's, but for me, a lot of mine was, you know, healing from years of being gaslit by the medical community, being told I was lazy, and I completely overcompensated. Um, and I think that's why when I walked into the doctor, he was like, "You definitely don't have narcolepsy. Like, you have two kids on your lap and one over here." And it's like, well, okay, if you have something wrong with one of your knees, your left, my left knee, your right knee starts to overcompensate to help out. And what I was doing my whole entire life was I was overcompensating because I didn't want to be looked at as lazy, or, that I was depressed when I didn't feel depressed, or, anxiety. I didn't, that wasn't me, and I knew it wasn't me. So I really think that once you put in the work in yourself and you can accept and understand whatever it is that you have or are dealing with, that you can then move from being in that survival state to really thriving and living your optimal life. And that may teeter, it's that doesn't always look like a 50-50 balance. Sometimes health priorities pop up and you have to reassess things, and that's where you're constantly checking in with yourself. And then other times, you're feeling really great and you're able to give more and do more. So it's all about balance, but it's not about having the perfect life. It's just about creating a meaningful one for you.
Mhm. So what advice would you give to someone who was just diagnosed with narcolepsy or another condition, another rare condition?
I think that for anyone that's diagnosed with a rare disorder, a mental health disorder, any diagnosis, a cancer diagnosis, a diagnosis of social anxiety, whatever it is that somebody is diagnosed with, hold space for yourself first and step back and give yourself a little bit of breathing room, and you know know that it's okay to prioritize yourself. um, we live in a society that is super fast paced these days, and it's it takes it takes a lot to really carve out time for yourself. I mean, at least and obviously I have three kids full time. I have a lot going on. So I have to be very, like, actually schedule it on my schedule, like self-care time, whether, because I journal every single day because I need my thoughts out of my head before I go to sleep, or they're going to be floating around and keeping me awake at night. So that's just one thing that I do. But I want, like, someone that's newly diagnosed, take the space, know that you're not alone. You may feel like it because if you have a rare disorder, you can't talk to the person next to you about that. But then that's where, you start looking for resources. You have to know, that a diagnosis, it helps explain you, but it doesn't define you. I think that that's really important for people to know. And then also explore, go online. You can find anything these days. So learn about your condition, educate yourself, advocate, become your biggest advocate. Nobody will stick up for you the way you will, right? And I learned that years in, and that's why I had the binder with me everywhere, to every doctor I would go to, of everything and every symptom and every this and every that, because I became my own advocate because I just didn't know what to do anymore, and I really wanted answers. And also, find your community. I think that that's really important. And that could be through Facebook, that could be through a nonprofit. And if you can't find anything, reach out to places that can help you find those things. I've had people reach out to me and ask me, and I don't mind doing the work on that. If I can help anybody feel less alone or more educated with their diagnosis, then that makes me happy. I really love that that part of things. And then that could also mean reassessing your healthcare team, if you get a diagnosis, and looking at your team, because now you have not just a primary care, you're going to have probably more doctors And in our healthcare system, they don't necessarily all work together like like we wish that they could, like a well-oiled machine. So it's kind of keeping doctors up to date on other doctors and informing them. And really just remember that life is still full of possibilities. You can do anything. And your diagnosis, it's a chapter, it's not the title of your life. So I think that that's also really important to remember.
Mhm. So, what changes would you like to see in healthcare or public awareness?
Oh, goodness. Lots and lots. I think everybody could agree with that these days. Um, I mean, honestly, I think healthcare in whole, on the whole, we're kind of in a little bit of a healthcare crisis. I did mention that I was going to be going back to school for nursing. There's a mass need for nurses. And I did just mention about um, healthcare and what was I explaining about it kind of being like a well-oiled machine, and there's kind of a lack in doctors being able to speak with one another. I mean, gosh, you want to talk about wait? So we have wait times. There's crazy wait times for people that are getting in that need these necessary services. We have people being misdiagnosed. We have really long diagnosis times now. So that to me just shows um, there's cracks, and obviously people in the rare community or um, you know definitely fall into that category, and they just need to stay strong. We know our own bodies the best. Listen to your body. If your body is telling you that it feels different or that there's something wrong, don't let a doctor or a healthcare professional dismiss you and tell you that you're fine. You need to be your own advocate, and you need to push, especially, in today's day and age. But I think I kind of covered, whole person care. Um, and yeah, I mean, that's kind of a loaded question that I could talk about for hours, to be honest with you. And I'm sure that you feel the same way, but our bodies work together, and our healthcare system really should too. And I think that right now that might not necessarily be the case, but things can always change, and it's always great to have a positive outlook on things. And there's always strength in numbers. So as long as there's people that are volunteering and that are using their voice for good, we're going to be moving in a good direction.
How can people support someone living with narcolepsy?
Oh, that's a great question. To me, honestly, I love this, and I hope that my family watches this. If anyone that knows me, listen to me. I would love that. I think I do. I have like a little cheat sheet somewhere for people to kind of understand it like super quick. But I think that educate yourself, number one, learn about it, because the majority of people think either that I have sleep apnea or that I just randomly fall asleep during the day or when I'm driving a car. And that's not the case. It's goes far beyond being a sleep disorder. It's actually a neurological condition. You can see both a pulmonologist, but you can also see a neurologist. I've seen both. Um, and I don't know if I got into the specifics, but about the neurons in our brain, the orexin that is kind of attacked and killed off. And currently, we don't have anything that can mimic or replace it. For instance, if people are depressed, we have, different medications that can mimic serotonin or things like that. So we currently don't have anything. So what we do is we manage it. with different medications that might look for, and it looks different for everybody because everybody responds differently to medications. So that may mean that people are taking stimulants during the day, which will help give them more energy. I have tried every single one of them, and they make me extremely anxious. Although I will say there is one that is called Sunosi that I'm not taking, but if I do need to take something, that would be the one with the least side effects of feeling jittery. But then you also have the twofold of nighttime where you need the restorative sleep. It's twofold. So then you have issues falling asleep at night or staying asleep, fragmented sleep. Your brain doesn't follow the regular sleep cycle that people typically follow. You know, we go from falling asleep into REM. So you're missing a huge section in there that is doing detox on your body, which is super important. So there are medications that can help you and help you sleep through the night and feel more rested. One is called Xyrem. I have never personally taken Xyrem. When I was diagnosed, my kids were too young, and I did not want to have it in my house. It's a liquid that goes under your tongue, and then essentially you fall asleep, and you're like out. And it works. I've heard, amazing stories from people about how it's transformed their lives, but also healthcare systems play a role in this. So it's over. So, excuse me. I've contemplated at one point being able to try it because I do want, I'm a very motivated person, and um, there are times when, yes, lack of sleep or feeling exhausted like can, affect my day. So I've looked at it, but it's really hard to get approved by insurance. And if insurance doesn't cover it, it's over $100,000 a year out of pocket. That is
Yeah.
not affordable for anybody. So um, it's, I would say narcolepsy has a long way to go. And, with the doctors, with the medications, with insurance companies approving these medications for people. And this is always something that I will follow and be passionate about because, like I said, I have 2 out of 3 of my girls that carry the gene. And if they develop it, then, I want to make sure that they're advancing and moving forward in studying this rare disorder.
Mhm.
I don't want my kids to go through what I did. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 35. That was extremely difficult. And then, um, there's like there's before diagnosis and after diagnosis. Like if there's a great feeling of feeling validated when you get a diagnosis, but then there's also, okay, what does life look like from here? And that can be said about so many things. I always tell people everybody's always says, will say to me like, oh my gosh, you up and left a whole, like you left a whole entire life. And I did. I left everything that I knew. I lived in New York for 23 years. I moved back to be near my family. And that was the best choice for me. And my best advice to people is that your life can look however you want it to look. It's just taking one small step at a time, sticking a little foot out there, testing the waters, and so that's kind of, my philosophy with things. But so, and I did get a little sidetracked, which I do tend to do, but yes, have people in my family absolutely study and get to know what narcolepsy is. And then also, I think how they can support me. So I think that that's really nice. And then, be involved in community activities, support me that way. So,
So some of the medications I Did hear where you can build up a tolerance to. Are you on any of those medications or?
So, as of right now, I tried Nuvigil, Modafinil. I think they gave me Adderall. Like you name it, I tried everything, and I couldn't do them. There was actually we joked around one Christmas. I want to say it was the Modafinil. I think I was awake for 3 days. I couldn't sleep. It just kept me. It completely wired me. And this is where everybody's body is different, and how they respond to these medicines. So we joked around that Christmas. I was online Googling, and literally every gift looked like it had been packaged and wrapped at like a Macy's store and belonged in a display because I was up all night and needed something to do because I couldn't sleep. But so right now, I take a lower dose of Klonopin and I take a low dose of Zoloft. And so I'm actually somebody that believes in less medication unless I need it. So because I have been fortunate enough that I've stayed home with my children, they're now getting old enough where I can go back to work. But if I had a day where, I need like take a little 45-minute nap or something like that, I could. I do prefer that over, and this is one of the things like I'm going to jump back to, I guess, where you asked about how the healthcare system, where I've kind of leaned into some more Eastern and holistic ways to navigate narcolepsy. And so, yeah, so I'm on a lower dose of Klonopin and Zoloft, and it works for me. That's not going to work for everybody else. Is there room for improvement with it? 100%. But as somebody who doesn't respond well to stimulants, it's like a you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't situation, pretty much, because I don't, if I'm taking the stimulants, I don't, my body doesn't like them. I don't respond well. Yes, I will stay up and my house will be spotless and clean, but like my heart's racing a million miles a minute. That's not sustainable. That's not good on my body. So for me, that that wasn't a choice for me. And like I said, revisiting Xyrem or Xywave in the future is a possibility. But in order to even start those medications, I need to be off the current medications I'm on now before I can even try to get my insurance to cover it. And I'm not guaranteed that they will because it's so expensive.
Some medications I know that there's drug companies will help with them, and also NORD is another place where
Yeah.
yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of
they
some
will.
of the nonprofits do help with that.
There's a lot of nonprofits to help with it. I want to say I pay my daughter's on a prescription for something. And so I think like insurance doesn't cover it. She needs it. So I was able to find resources where I was able to get the cost lowered because I think originally it was like $3,000 or something like that. This was for her anemia. And so there's definitely those things. But as of right now, I think even with discounts and stuff like that, the Xyrem and Xywave are still very, very expensive. And the consensus in a lot of the groups that I'm in, where we discuss narcolepsy and what we take for medications, people really struggle with getting insurance to cover it or getting discounts or things like that. So that's why I love being a part of NORD because I want to be able to branch out and be able to talk about narcolepsy more. And there's still so much about it, I think, that needs to be learned, that needs to be understood, that needs to be relayed to not just healthcare providers, but insurance companies, because there are many times when my healthcare provider wants to help me, but they're like, oh, okay. Insurance is saying that we need to do another repeat MSLT. We need to do this. We need to do that. And then maybe they'll consider giving you the medication. So, it's a tough situation where you have, it's and that goes back to working together and, um, you know, insurance and healthcare and all of that. So,
Yeah. Um, so places like the Health Well Foundation is another one that helps with medications,
yeah.
I know. And then there's also I did an episode on getting medications overseas. You can actually order medications from a different country. There's an episode I did with a company called Meds Partner. They're based in India,
Oh,
and so they actually will transfer medications to different countries. So
oh, that's
it's
pretty cool.
yeah.
I
So
wonder I wonder, see the trick is with Xyrem because it's a liquid and it knocks you out. Like it
yeah,
literally, like you have to be in bed when you take it. I think that it obviously can potentially be very dangerous. Because
yeah.
if you have a liquid bottle of that, somebody could. Yeah, so it's just that's one of those risky drugs where, God forbid, I think there's definitely, like, if I had it in my house, it would be in a safe. And, I mean, I keep medications in a safe anyway, just because that's good practice to do when you have children in your home.
Mhm.
But, you know,
That's a good idea.
I think, oh, yeah, there's a lot I could go into about that, but with medication safety. To prevent accidental overdoses of things in the household. And that's always something as adults that we need to be conscious about what is around and not just teenagers who may want to get into things, but young
Mhm.
children accidentally, even if they're at grandma's and grandma has her pills out on the counter for the day, that's a whole nother topic. But
Yeah.
it's definitely something that's important, and I can't remember the statistic on it, but there's a lot of ER visits every year
Oh yeah.
due to kids getting their hands on medications that weren't meant for them.
Yeah.
But
So where
I
can
mean,
listeners go?
oh, sorry. I was just going to say, like, as far as medications, I do know, because I do get like repeat ear and sinus infections and throat infections and all of that, like, very regularly. It's part of just some immune things that I have. So when I was in Mexico, coming back, they have a full pharmacy in the airport. So I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna, I kind of got some medication, and you go through and they can't remember if they had to put it in like a duty free bag or not, but you were able to get it there, and it was so much more reasonable than here. And so you are right about the other countries. So I did do that and brought back some things.
Yeah. So yeah, I've had medications that are really expensive because I have a recognition also, homocystinuria. But one of my medications, if I were paying full price for it, would be like $1,600. And we've had shipments from Europe before, so it um, when they've been out of stock, so they'll
Oh.
borrow from other countries. Um, where can listeners follow your advocacy and your journey to the national competition?
Ah, lots of places. I'm everywhere. I'm here, there, and everywhere. Well, so on social media, so first up, I have my website, which is called invisiblyempowered.com. It's always a work in progress because it's just me doing it, built it, and I built it on Wix and have it running. On there, I have resources for everybody in the state of Maine as far as from anything that's invisible. from cancer to anxiety to narcolepsy to, just everything. I have everything covered. And then I also have everything nationally. And then I have my Invisibly Unfiltered. It's a video cast and a podcast. It's short. I love bringing people on that are able to talk about something that they are passionate about or skilled or trained in, and kind of teach people and then give them, a few actionable takeaways that they're able to do either in the next 24 hours or something they can implement in their lives in one or two easy steps. I also have my platform, which is called Invisibly Empowered, which is on Instagram and Facebook. And I also have Miss Maine for America Strong, which is on TikTok. I always forget TikTok because I'm not a big TikToker, but TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. I also have the NORD. I run the NORD Maine, the RAN website.
Mhm.
I've been working to try to build up and find my community here that needs help. I know that they're out there, and I want to help give them some access to care. And I am planning an in-person get together. So um, I think that,
Facebook's an excellent spot to start.
yeah. I mean, I've been posting in there more. Darby's wonderful about it because I'm like, what can I do and what can I not do? And
Mhm.
she's just so amazing, and she knows that, like, I want to reach people. I don't want people to feel alone or isolated because that just can lead to depression, anxiety, and so many other things. And I don't want anybody to go through anything alone. I've gone through so many things in my life alone, and it's not fun. So
Mhm.
I want to be that person to help others. And then where else? So I did finish a book. It is not published yet, but it is called The Yes Life. And it kind of talks about my journey. It does touch on narcolepsy, my rare disorder. It also talks about, leaving a marriage and moving and completely reshaping and restarting my life from the ground up. And what I love about it that I found other books didn't have is that in each section or each chapter that I write about, there is then a resource section after it for people to journal and put down things about themselves. So I always found that things were either just very journal driven or book driven. And I feel like I've wanted to create something that was in the middle because I don't just want to share my story. I want people to pick up on the things and be like, oh my gosh, that sounds like me. Oh my goodness, I resonate with this. And I want them to be able to have the prompts, which I have in there, that can help them and have them write down these things because it's important. And I always like to joke around that I feel like I've spent a college education getting to know myself, getting to understand, you know, nutrition, our bodies, just even pulling yourself out of flight or fight, cortisol, all these different things, and then, putting everything else on top of it. So, I really feel like it does a great balance of that. So yeah, it's called The Yes Life, and I have put it out to publishers. So there's always traditional ways I could have just done direct on Amazon, but I did choose to submit to some publishers to see where that would go. But I do also talk about that too, so people can find me there. And I think that that's it. It's a lot of places, and I have
Yeah.
people messaging me all the time, and it makes my heart happy. And when I get a story back around of somebody that's like, hey, like, I don't think you realize this, but you posted something and you were super honest, and that really helped me. And can I get some more info about that? So those are the things that make me the happiest. Those are the things that remind me that what I feel called to and what I want to do with my life is the right path, and that I'm going to keep doing that. And if people really want to find me, I'll be heading to Nationals August 23rd. I compete on September 1st for the national title, which is going to be, I'm so excited. I've met so many of the girls. All of them have beautiful, wonderful platforms, and I just find it amazing. I think for people that don't know about pageants, just know that it's way more work than I would have ever imagined. Just being able to walk in 16-inch heels
Oh, yeah.
is for a long time. That's a big thing. But, all of these women are pouring their hearts and their souls into different platforms. And, maybe mine doesn't resonate with you, but somebody else does. Maybe they're focusing on grief and loss. Which is a great one. I lost my nephew 2 years ago to suicide. So for me, that's obviously, if you didn't hear, am consistently talking about mental health only because with rare disorders and invisible illnesses, people tend to suffer from secondary issues such as depression, anxiety, and those types of things. So, and isolation and loneliness. And I don't ever want anybody to feel that. So, that's why I do like to keep always reiterating that you're not alone. And there are people that care and that want to help you. So, yeah, so it's going to be a wonderful experience. Ask me how I feel when I get back after doing that for 10 days with narcolepsy. But I'm going to be listening to my body, and I've reminded myself that that's one thing to keep in mind is that I'm out there and I am going to have an amazing time. And um, the outcome doesn't matter. I'm still doing the same work that I'm doing now that I would if I won that national title, and that if I need to give myself a little bit of grace while I'm out there because I have a rare disorder, I'm going to give that to myself. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
So, for the suicide hotline is 988 in the US.
Yes. Yep.
And you can also call or text 74174 home 741 if you're in other countries also. So
That's a great
there's
one to know. And you can
yeah.
actually text the 988 too. A few weeks ago, I was testing it out. I was like, I actually want to kind of see what this, like, because for me, I would call, but ask any teenager to call, right?
Yeah.
Or say somebody that's experiencing anxiety and upset because they're in an abusive relationship, or maybe their
Yeah.
parents are. There's a million different scenarios. So texting is non-obvious. And a lot of times I have basically three teenagers, girls. That are constantly using their phones, but they're, texting with one another. So I like to always put out there about texting and knowing that that's available.
Mhm.
Because if you just say that 988 is to call, I think
Yeah, I
everybody
didn't
from
just
like,
say call or text,
oh,
but
yeah, anyone from like 25 under, they're like, no, thank you. It
yeah.
depends. It depends on the person, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't mention the website, but there is also a website. Um, Mainly because if you're in that kind of a situation, it's an emergency situation, and you're not. I mean, you're not going to have time to visit a website.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
um, but this is another thing I found out. Last time I was being evaluated for I take paratransit a lot here in Oregon, and I'll transfer it when I travel also. But they had something that they're advertising. The sunflower is the symbol for invisible disability. And so they gave me this lanyard with sunflowers on it. And
Aw.
it also has a place where you can write in anything you need help with. So if you're nonverbal, it is great tool. But I also have a shirt available on Bonfire where I combine the zebra, which is the symbol for the for rare diseases, with
Yeah.
with sunflowers.
Oh, I love that.
And so,
That's pretty cool. If you send that to me, I'd love to put that out there.
sure, I can send it to you. So there, yeah, I can send you the link to it. Um, but yeah, I have a bunch of shirts. I just redid the one for Rare Connection also.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Well, that's great. You know, it's anything that kind of pulls us all together, right?
right. So
So, yeah.
I'd like to thank Heather for joining me today and for sharing her journey with narcolepsy. Her work as the Maine NORD ambassador has and inspiring message that it's impossible to go from survive that it's possible to go from surviving to thriving. Today's conversation reminds us that many rare and uncommon conditions are often misunderstood. Behind every diagnosis is a person with dreams, goals, and the determination to make a difference. By sharing stories like Heather's, um, we can help break down misconceptions, encourage earlier recognition, and build a more informed and compassionate community. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with a friend, family member, healthcare provider, or anyone who wants to learn more about rare disease and the people living with them. Every share helps us reach someone who may be searching for answers or simply needs to know they are not alone. Sharing is caring. Um, if you or someone you know has a rare disease, uh, an undiagnosed condition, or is working to improve the lives of, of the rare disease community through advocacy, research, clinical trials, I'd love to hear from you. Um, my next episode will be with Geneva, the Maryland NORD ambassador. We'll be talking about Hoyer lifts. So she has a ceiling Hoyer lift, and I've been dying to get my hands on somebody who has one. And so uh, we'll be talking a lot about that. Until next time, I'm Joanna, and this is for Connection. Um, uh, connecting people, sharing knowledge, and bringing home hope for the rare disease community, one story at a time.